Well, happy Father's Day to all of you out there. And after a, a lifetime of doing a few pretty cool things, the very coolest thing that I ever did was adopt two and produce two biologicals. And it's fantastic. There's just nothing better than kids. And now grandkids, and I hope that all of you out there have a phenomenal Father's Day. And no, I don't take Father's Day off. So, because this is way too much fun. I enjoy doing this so much. It's unbelievable. This morning, I want to say this. Uh, for those of you who watch the channel, you probably already know this about me, but there's some of you that are new to the channel. So I'm just going to say that I spend a lot of my time, almost, I mean, I don't know what percentage of my time. I spend a lot of my time in my head imagining how the future is going to play out, doing kind of scenarios and game planning. What is it going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or even 2 or 3 years from now? And then sometimes, if I think that there's anything valuable to share, I'll share it here. Fortunately, some of you also are very interested in the future, and that's maybe why you watch the channel. Because of my fascination with Elon and his companies, and because of the massive potential impact of his visions, various visions, most of the time that I spend playing out stuff about the future is 3 years from now, 5 years from now. It has to do with transportation, it has to do with communication, it has to do with the things that Elon is doing. Now, there is a glitch and just about everybody's analysis of that future, in my humble opinion. And it's been on my mind for a very long time. Almost everybody in this community, and I'm mostly talking about those who understand the move towards electric vehicles, the move towards autonomous vehicles. For those of us who are in that position, I think the vast majority of those folks see a future where we are in this iPhone versus Android battle between ICE and electric. And I'm here to tell you that this was the battle. And I've been talking about it ever since I started writing books about Elon and ever since I started this show. But that's not the battle anymore. And I've known this for a long time. And I keep thinking about, how am I going to talk about it? But it was just too soon. Nobody would have gotten it a year ago. Well, nobody. You would have gotten it probably, but not everybody that's in my audience would have gotten it. And certainly the folks that aren't in this audience wouldn't have a clue about what I'm going to explain to you right now. And I could be wrong. But in fact, just last week, the seed was sown for a disruption that will wipe out virtually every car company other than Tesla. And it's very hard for me to see how that will not be the case. And it's going to happen quickly, way more quickly than the ICE versus electric vehicle situation would have created bankruptcies. You see, it's not going to be Tesla and 9 Chinese makers, or as I've been saying for a while, Tesla, 8 Chinese makers, and maybe South Korea. It's just going to be Tesla. I'll talk more about whether there will be a few other automakers when we get closer to the end of my analysis. Well, anyway, here's how it works. Right now, the average citizen, not you, because you know about electric cars, but the average citizen, whether they're in Europe, whether they're in China, whether they're in the United States, they're just fine with their ICE car. But there's a growing group that they get the whole electric car idea. And so every single year, more and more people do switch to electric cars. In China, more people switch because the government is forcing the issue. In Europe, there's a certain amount of government force and a certain amount of greenism that's causing people to switch, even if and by the way, they turn out to be right. It turns out to be a very smart move, but it's not necessarily based on making a wise decision in terms of the characteristics of the vehicle overall, but rather just because it's the in thing to do. Well, that's great. And it will continue that way for another year or so. That's where the energy will be. That's what you'll be reading in the headlines. More and more EVs, BEVs, even the hybrids will start to slow down as BEVs take over more and more of this space. But that isn't the story. No, no. You see, because in Tesla, I'm sorry, in 2026, next year, Tesla's going to field about 1 million autonomous ride-hail vehicles and maybe a lot more. So it might end up being 500,000 or 600,000 of the cybercabs, maybe a couple of 100,000, maybe 300,000 of their own Model Ys and Model 3s from their own inventory. And then maybe they'll turn loose 1 million or so of us with our vehicles, turning them into the Airbnb version. But there's going to be a huge amount, millions at least, according to Elon, 1 million and a half, maybe more vehicles that are going to be turned loose as robo-taxis or autonomous ride-hail next year. Now, these are going to displace some Uber vehicles. It's going to displace some Lyft, although it's not a very big number. It's going to displace some Waymo vehicles, but you're talking about 1,500 total. What it's really going to displace, it's going to displace 5 million vehicles, at least, maybe closer to 10 million vehicles, driven by individuals who will be only too happy to get a ride hail rather than drive their cars if the price is right. You see, each of these cars, each of this million cars, 1.5 million, 2 million, each one of these cars that goes into service will be replacing 5 vehicles in terms of the number of hours they will be driven per day. And this is probably at least, it may be more, but let's just use 5 for this purpose. So 5 million to 10 million vehicles will be displaced next year. Well, then in 2027, Tesla's going to field about 3 million, maybe a lot more AVs, which will displace 15 million vehicles. And that may not even count. I'm not even taking into consideration more people like you and me who might decide to put their car out to make some money. Now, what's going to happen to those 15, the 5 million to 10 million the first year, 2026, and another 15 million? Now you're talking about 25 million cars that are not on the road anymore, are barely on the road. Some of those are just going to rot away in garages, be sold, scrapped. The values will be going down dramatically for used vehicles. Dramatically, huge. People will start to get it. Many of those will replace, however, the purchase of a new car. Let's say, for instance, that maybe 5 million fewer vehicles will be purchased in 2027, and most of those will be ICE and hybrid. Let's say 5 million of the 80 million a year, 75 million, 80 million a year will not be purchased. That is going to be devastating to the auto industry. Devastating. In 2028, Tesla will make another 5 million, at least 5 million vehicles in 2028, and that'll displace 25 million more vehicles, and at least half of those, and probably all of those, will also deplete new car sales. However, by that time, societal change will be taking place. New car buyers will see, the people who are thinking, I need a new car, will see the handwriting on the wall. It'll be headlines that the value of used cars is going to trash. Everybody will be getting it, that the future is all about ride hail, and that driving your own personal car is going to be a joke. And so people will put off the purchases. So rather than only 25 million fewer vehicles being sold, no, it might be 30 million fewer or 40 million fewer, to where we're talking about the car companies having only half the TAM, and maybe it'll be even worse than that. Then in 2029, Tesla will make 10 million vehicles at least, and this will displace 50 million cars and completely finish off the auto industry. Now, some of those car companies might quickly, soon, in 2025 or 2026, get licenses. If they don't get a license before the end of 2026, they won't have time to even participate. But there might be some car companies that get licenses. They're probably going to want licenses for a lot more than just FSD. They're probably going to want licenses or be able to purchase products from Tesla in order to make inexpensive ride-hail cars along the lines of what Tesla's technology now allows them to do, maybe even including the unbox process, the 48 volt, steer-by-wire, etc. All of these, I don't know, do you need steer-by-wire when you don't have a steering wheel? I don't know. Anyway, so by 2029, I think it's over. I thought it was going to be over in 2028 because of the ICE situation anyway. But now what I've seen, again, I've seen this for 2 years. I just haven't talked about it. I just didn't know exactly. I didn't think y'all would agree with me. I think by now you're starting to see, okay, autonomous vehicles are now a thing. Tesla is got their products now in Austin. We'll have the grand launch a week from today. Well, maybe one or two of these other companies will make a few million to add to this disruption in 2028, 29, 30. We'll see. But in 2030, 15 million or more AVs will completely take the place of the normal 75 to 80 million vehicles. You see 15 times 5, that's 75. So your 75 million vehicles will be displaced 100% by autonomous vehicles. And most of this will be for the Tesla fleet or for the fleets of Tesla vehicles managed by others. There'll be some other niche automakers. There'll be some niche makers who will be making, pickup trucks of some kinds, work trucks, maybe various types of tractors, construction equipments, fire trucks. There'll be some other kinds of cars and trucks that will be made, but they will be semi-autonomous or driven by Optimi, not by humans in some cases. That's already happening in some worlds, and it will be a thing where it won't make sense because of the volume to autonomize the vehicle itself. So you'll just have a humanoid drive it. Over the next 10 years, privately owned vehicles will become a relic of history. When I say over the next 10 years, I mean from 2030 to 2040, privately owned vehicles will become a relic of history, except maybe in some remote areas where cybercabs may not be profitable to deploy. And I'm not even sure of that. It may be that they're profitable to deploy even in the most remote areas. Because why? Because it's not going to cost very much. Energy might be close to free by that time. And so the cost to deploy a autonomous ride-hail vehicle even to something 20 miles away will not be high. The idea that people will not give up driving a private vehicle when the cost of transportation drops way below that of owning a private vehicle, and when the world will lack service facilities to fuel and maintain them? Nonsense. It'll be a new world. It'll be a completely changed world. Yeah, you might go down to the track, or you might have your fun old car that you use for going out and making a lot of noise and spinning tires and things. But it's going to be a completely new world. And this is a sea change that's going to happen before we finish the ICE versus BEV debate. Before that debate is finished, you see, I thought it was good. Early on, I showed you all those charts and all those plans where I thought the BEVs would take over ICE and put those ICE companies out of business. That is what Stephen Mark Ryan, and just go down the list. Everybody's been talking about that for the last 2.5 years that I've been doing these videos. No, it's not what's going to happen. But I thought the introduction of Tesla in Austin would be the perfect time to tell you, no, it's going to be a completely different revolution, a completely different disruption. It will eliminate the car companies entirely. And yeah, within about 3 years. You got stock in, not investment advice. You got stock in any of those companies? You got stock in gasoline distribution companies or people like Shell and Mobil? Not investment advice. Listen, I also stumbled last night upon an amazing video, which I used to create another video, putting my commentary on top of it. And this is about BYD's extremely precarious financial position, which is now, rather than 3 years from now, but their position will be even more precarious. If somehow they last until 2028, they'll go away anyway. But right now, it looks very precarious. This is a fun video to watch if you'd like to see, give you a little bit of an insight into the whole business of how companies finance themselves and what companies do when they're in financial difficulty. I've helped many, many companies, including a couple of my own, get through financial difficulties. I have been on the other side where I have, been on the other side of bankruptcies from people like Schwinn Bicycle Company twice, Kmart, others, over the years who went bankrupt. They were my customers, and I could see the handwriting on the wall, as could many. But right now, the handwriting on the wall is for BYD, unless the Chinese government comes in and saves them, which they might. Anyway, if you haven't seen that yet, totally suggest you go take a look at that. Then later today, I will do 2 more videos, probably, but I'll do my regular Sunday night video, which we call Monday morning, where we'll talk about what's coming up this week, including, I think this is the week the Fed makes a decision. I think I know what the decision is going to be, even though I know what the decision should be, but we'll talk about that tonight. And then I do have another video all lined up for tonight. Let's see, what did I call this one? I haven't written it yet, but it's about the rationale that I currently have, why I believe that we'll get to the all-time high in the next couple of weeks. How about that? I think I'll also give you my wish list. If I could have anything right now, this is, it's Father's Day, so what presents would I like from Elon Musk? What would be my wish list from Elon right now? All right, that's all I got for you right now. It has been, oh no, let's see. Last night, I told you last night. So the card's right there. That's it. Okay, I'm done. Happy Father's Day. Been great talking to you.